Oh, good afternoon. It is June 22nd, Thursday. She's hot out. I think we're climbing up to about 89 or so right now. So I have done a video entailing every single part of my off-grid home before, but it was about 3 years ago, and I've done a lot since then to upgrade and optimize things. I gotta step back into the weeds a little bit for you to see the whole thing. Little bit of backstory if you've never seen anything from my channel. We've been 100% off-grid for, well, since 2017, since April of 2017, and no power, no gas. The meters are literally gone from the house. I called the power company and said, get these meters off of my house. I'm not paying for your electricity anymore, and I'm not paying a meter fee to not use the meters, so just get them off of my house. Fortunately, in the state of Wisconsin, there is not a monopoly on energy. There is, however, still a monopoly on water. So if the municipal water is run to your house, you have to use it. I could pound my own well, but I can only use it for irrigation or filling pools. So yes, we still get water from the utilities, but you can see from the line there, the only line that's coming from the pole, that's our internet. So there's one coax coming, and that's it. They actually removed the wire from my house to the pole. They removed the meter off the electricity service and the gas. So, you know, they kind of made a big deal about it, but it's 100% legal, so they can blow me. So this is where my power comes from. This is 16 100-watt polycrystalline solar panels. They are wired to 48 volts. So these four are wired together, those four are wired together, those four are wired together, and those four are wired together, all in series. Those are all series, and then paralleled to the main wire that runs into the house. I use 10 gauge for all the series, and then it's 6 gauge going into the house. And the reason for, even though I have a 24 volt system, the reason I wire them for a higher voltage is you have less line loss getting it to the charge controller the higher the volts are, and it's less amps that my wire has to carry, and just eliminates any caution of getting hot wires or fires or, you know, any problems like that. But relatively simple rack. It's all built on just the 3 posts, and it's all centered, so the balance is actually really good. So I can adjust this down for winter light when the sun is just barely skating over the treetops, you know, in December and January. Now she's adjusted for summer when the sun rides high in the sky. So that is about 95% of my power generation. The other 5%, which seems negligible, but it has proved itself to be extremely important lots of times, mostly in the winter. You can see right now that is northeast. When we got wind coming from that way, the turbine actually produces power. Like, this is just such a gentle breeze right now. It's probably 5-mile-an-hour wind. It's not doing a lot, but it's doing something. And it's doing something consistently. So it's probably 20 to 50 watts right now in this wind. But I've seen it's an 800 watt Chinese turbine. I got it from Greenie Solutions. I had to do a lot of troubleshooting to get it to track right because I have so many obstructions. I have big trees and a woods, so wind coming from this way is very turbulent. Wind coming from that way gets a chance to straighten out, and that's very productive wind. But the tail on it, I don't know if you can see from all the way back here. I fabricated this tail. The original tail that came on it was maybe 10 inches tall and 12 inches wide. That's an X tail, and from the bottom point to the top point is 24 inches, and then it's 18 inches wide. So it actually catches air really good, and she tracks nice and controllable now. And I've seen this 800 watt turbine go over 1,000 watts multiple times. And yes, Billy, that's just freaky peaks, I know. But in the winter months, when the sun is rarely seen, the wind, fortunately here at least, keeps on blowing. So you know, there's been countless nights where we haven't seen the sun in 3, 4, 5 days, and the turbine just keeps on going. So yeah, the batteries aren't like styling. We're not in the green or nothing. I'm not running my welder or anything out of my fab shop, but we're not having to start the generator yet, and I'll get to that. This is actually a really important part of the system. Just a regular old clothesline. One would call it a solar clothes dryer. We don't have to waste energy to dry clothes. We do have an extremely energy efficient clothes washer, but in the summer we line dry outside. In the winter we line dry in the basement while the wood furnace is going, and we'll get there. While I'm standing right here, I may as well explain this stuff. This is our solar water heater. There is 480 foot of black hose coiled inside of here in a built frame with, it's a 4x8 frame with tempered glass on top of it. It's all sealed up. It's not 100% airtight. I left a little air gap so air can expand and it doesn't blow my enclosure up. But this is run independently. It has its own solar panel. That's a 20 watt monocrystalline panel, and that runs the water pump that circulates the water through this length of hose to the hot water tank and back. So it's only, and because the sun comes around from this way, I set the panel here so it gives the sun a chance to come all the way across this panel and start heating up the hose and the enclosure before it starts to pump, circulating. Otherwise it's circulating the cold water from the night before it gets a chance to warm it up. So I've, you know, when I had the solar panel down here, it would start to pump before the sun's even on the solar thermo panel, and my water would go from 100 degrees in the morning down to 80 because it's pulling in cold water. So I just moved that a little bit, and that made a huge difference. And it works great. This gets our water, you know, we're probably already well over 100 degrees right now by the end of the afternoon, when this tree is shading the sun at about 4:30 in the afternoon. We should be up to, you know, 115, 120 degrees and be able to take, you know, 2 showers and run the dishes and still have, you know, 100-degree water to start with tomorrow. This is our absolute backup generator. This is a complete powerhouse. I've done multiple videos on this. I've done multiple videos on everything. The build and updates of each part of this system. I've done multiple videos on. Anytime I update anything or have a problem and change it to remedy the problem, I make another video. So if you haven't seen me and you're interested in off-grid life, please, you know, subscribe and just start scrolling through the playlist. There's a lot of interesting stuff. You know, I've been learning as I go. I started with nothing. I've slowly built this system over, you know, 7 years. But this I made. It was a long process. It was a multiple prototypes before it got to this. This has been changed so many times. But what it comes down to, it's a Harbor Freight 212cc Predator engine and a permanent magnet alternator from Thermodyne. This is the dual core DC 1212, which is just a monster of a PMA. Like, most cores are about that thick. This one is the entirety of that container. It's insane. They built it off of a Delco, oh geez, I forget, that's escaping me right now. It's built off a Delco alternator. They used the front case for the front and the back, and then they made their own core. They hand wind their stators, and then the permanent magnet core is just massive and extremely strong. I tried to take this apart once and I smashed my hand really bad. That was a mistake. So, and that just uses a simple spring tensioner. So if I need to change my belt, I can push it forward and swap the belt, throw a new one on there. I always got a couple backups laying around. These belts last me about a year. The generator really doesn't get that much use throughout the year, but absolute power horse. It's capable of over 3,000 watts. I have the throttle preset to about 1600 watts, and I just let it run itself out of gas. I'll fill it up. It's got a 1 gallon tank, and I let it run itself out of gas. If we go 4 or 5 days without any sun or any wind, 1 gallon through the generator is enough to get us back in the green. So let's go check out the power plant. Before that, we can check out this quick. This is the hot water tank with the hoses coming to and from. This is the one coming from the solar thermal panel. This is the one going out, and you can feel there's easily a 10-degree difference. We just ran the dishwasher, so water is 96.1 degrees. That will continue to climb through the day. That will get up to 115, 120. Depending on what we use. And then you can see up here, I've got valves built in here. So this is the summer side, this is the winter side. This pump runs it all. It circulates, it pulls the water in and pushes the hot water in from the bottom, heats from the bottom up. And in the winter time, we use our wood furnace for heating the house and the water. I've got the vent disconnected right now just so the circulation system can circulate cold basement air into the house. Come fall, about October, I will reconnect that piece, and that joins that into here, and then the circulation system draws hot air straight from that. But inside of the this is the wood furnace, and just a simple old unit, box in a box. It's got the shroud around it, gets the shroud hot, and hot air gets pulled through here. How this was originally designed is to use a big fan on the back of it to push air through it. Instead of doing that, I replaced all of my register vents upstairs with, I made my own vents just out of a solid sheet of steel, cut a 200 millimeter hole in it, put a 200 millimeter computer fan that pulls. So there's 5 200 millimeter fans upstairs that pull the hot air from this up in the winter time, and the cool basement air in the summertime. It just runs year round. just keeping the air moving around. And each fan uses 2.5 watts, so I'm using approximately like 13 watts to circulate air through my house, which works out really good. It's really efficient. The water pump is like 8 to 10 watts. The coil for the winter, this is our water heater in the winter. There's 15 foot of 3/8 inch OD coil, copper coil, right inside, and that's coming right off of the back of the wood furnace, and that absolutely rocks. I've tried shorter pieces, it wasn't efficient enough. I've tried longer pieces, so the 10 foot didn't heat fast enough. The 15 or the 20 foot got it too hot. It get it like over 160 degrees where the pipes were starting to creak and we were blowing lines because it was overheating. The 15 foot 3/8 works really good, and it's a 2.1 gallon per minute pump. So it took some playing around, but I finally got it dialed in, and this keeps our water about 130, 120, 130 all winter long. But if you're gonna run a system like this, have extra parts. I've got extra lines, extra water pump, extra gaskets for all the different fittings. This is big time R&D to get something like this to work right. You got to get all the air out of the system. It was a lot of screwing around and multiple messes when I had failures. If that pump fails while the fire is on, the water is going to boil inside of that copper coil, and the steam is going to blow these braided lines off. So you have to be wary of all that. Have extra parts lying around and check on your system every single day. Like, if you don't want everything to be fully automated, yes, you have to, you don't want to pay a bill for your hot water. Yeah, you got to check on it once in a while. So yeah, that's the hot water system, and that sustains itself. And this is the power plant. We have 16 batteries here, 8. These are 6 volt golf cart batteries, Duracell golf cart batteries, and then these 8 are Group 31 deep cells, marine deep cells. These were my original batteries when I first built the system, and they're actually starting to get old, but they've been holding their own. These are, they're all in a series parallel, but because these are 12 volt batteries, it's just a 2 battery series, and then equal length wires paralleled up to the bus bars. And then this is a 4 battery series, equal length wires up to the bus bars, and all of our power is joined up there, and goes to the inverter with a cutoff. The inverter is hardwired to a main cutoff and a fuse, and that runs to the main house fuse panel over there. So everything's technically code, but we have an AC and a DC side that runs the house. Right here we have a 24 volt to 12 volt step down. There's a 320 watt step down, and that controls all our DC circuits. So this controls our computer fans, our phone chargers, our, the whole air house circulation system. There's multiple different things that you can run straight from DC, low voltage DC, and you can save a little bit of line loss by not running that through the inverter. And meters are very important. This meter shows me how much power is coming out of the batteries. This meter shows me how much power is coming out of the inverter. There's loss between here and here. There's loss, turning 24 volts to 120. There's a little bit of loss. My average efficiency, if you want to go ahead and do the math, do it the other way. Divide 3676 by 4337, and you'll come up with about 87. And that's my overall efficiency. That's a year's worth of use. And that meter is just metering the inverter. That's not metering the DC side. So it's just the inverter that's monitoring. So currently the house is using 200 watts, but the inverter is using 230 to make those 200. That's your line loss. And that's natural. This is actually a really, really good inverter. I've done torture tests on this where I walk through the whole house, turn every single thing in the entire house on, and then I come over to my fab shop and I weld a bunch of 1/4 inch plate stainless steel. And it never even beeped. So here we got our solar charge controller. This is a 60 amp Rectifer MPPT charge controller. This is just absolutely genius. Right now we are currently making 1200 watts, 42.8 amps, and so far today we have made 556 kilowatt hours. The wind is doing nothing. It must have died. It's been pretty stagnant all day. This is our dump load controller, and I forgot to mention that about the hot water system. There is a spillover from this. The dump load controller is set for 28.8. It starts to spill power over to the dump load, and our dump load, oh darn it, I don't want to be stuck in program mode. Okay, darn it. I'm sorry, bear with me. Programming these things are tedious. I just wanted to show you that. It kicks the dump on at 28.8 and it kicks it back off as it sags the voltage down. It kicks it off at 27. In the water heater there is a 600 watt DC heating element in there, so this wire runs up and over and goes to that. So when voltage gets all the way up to 28.8, it'll kick that on and spill that extra over instead of having the controllers, and it'll stop incoming power from the solar panels or put the brakes on with the turbine. It allows them to just keep on doing what they want to do and let that power continue to come in, and then it just puts it to auxiliary energy storage. Hot water is energy storage, so it just makes different use of that. Instead of charging batteries, it reroutes that extra power that we don't need. Otherwise, it would just shut everything down and it would float down. And then it would just sit here on float mode all the rest of the day. But, like everything else, I go way more into depth on all of this in other videos. I'll go show you my circulation fans quick, and then the rest of the system, because there's more than just what's on the house. And this is George. He's our alarm system. Booger. These are the vents I was talking about. So there's 5 of these in a house that pull the air up from the basement. Instead of forcing it up from the basement, these just run year-round, and they got little LEDs built into them, so if all the lights are off, they're a soft ambient light, kind of a night light, so they work out really good. And they're in all the bedrooms, all the rooms, bathroom, everything upstairs. Moving on. Boy, it's getting hot out. So, that's pretty much the gist of the house system. And then we got solar panels on everything. We got 100 watt monocrystalline solar panel in the shed, with a 2000 watt pure sine inverter in here, and that'll run my small compressor and my welder, all my lights. I got it powered down right now, just saving power. So the shed is self-sustaining, and then I got, extension cords I can stretch out when I'm doing projects and stuff. Even my toys, the go-kart, this, I did an engine swap on this, and I didn't want to try and get power off of the magneto to keep a battery charged to be able to run the lights. So I put a 30 watt semi-flexible solar panel on top of this. That comes down to a controller that I have waterproofed, and that goes down to a battery. So she's got her own self-sustaining power system, and that just runs the lights. I know it's overkill, but the battery will never die. You can put solar panels on anything. Oh yeah, up there I got a 50 watt monocrystalline solar panel that runs the attic fan. There is an 8-inch radiator fan that runs inside of that. You can hear it actually if we get close enough here. If I shut up here, you might be able to hear it. But it's inside that vent blowing outward, and that just helps draw the super, super, super hot humid air that builds up in the attic. And it helps draw that out. And there's vents on the other side and the front where it can draw not exactly cool air, but not nuclear hot air from the black shingles. So when we have our ceiling fans on, blowing from the ceiling down, like before the ceiling vent, our ceilings would be so hot that the ceiling fans were just blowing just super hot air back down at us, and it wasn't doing any good. It was moving air around, but it was not cooling anything off or making space more comfortable or livable. So that was a relatively cheap, easy fix. I just run the panel straight to the radiator fan motor, and as soon as there's light in the sky, that thing starts running, and it stops running when the sun is down. Just like the shed has its own system, so does the camper. 50-watt panel on top of that, 2 marine deep cell batteries in there, another 2,000-watt inverter inside of there that runs the outlets, and then we've got these guys from Harbor Freight. That's the rope light, solar rope light that kicks on as soon as it gets dark, and that there's 2 of them stringed through the ceiling that go in and out of the bathroom, and that works really nice just for soft ambient light, you know. USB powered ceiling fan, 12-volt lights. So this is also self-sustaining, and even the damn chicken coop is off-grid. Hey girls. So the panel that is currently up on the roof running the attic fan, that stays on the house all summer long, and come fall, about October, I take it down, disconnect it, because I don't need attic circulation on the house in the winter, and I rip the grapevine off of this and I mount it. I got a L bracket up there that it just clips onto and sits right here, and that plugs into, oh damn grapevine, this guy right here, inside of the coop. Hey girls, you can see underneath the bedding. Oh, come on. I poured concrete underneath this. There's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of concrete. And underneath that, I took one of those seats you can, just off the shelf, you know, slip-on seats you can put on your vehicle. That's got the seat warmer. I bought one of those, took the cushiony part off, and just got the heater coil out of it. I laid down some rubber on top of the wooden floor, put the heater coil, stretched it across that, and then sprayed real heavy duty clear coat on top of that to waterproof it. Left it for a day, and then poured 1.5 inches of cement over that. So, and I also just do the same thing, no batteries, no controllers. I just wire it direct to the 50-watt solar panel. So when the sun is up in the winter, it's running power to that. And that's only a 35 watt load, so the 50 watt panel, even if it's relatively indirect winter light, it still helps. It still does something. It still warms the floor, so it starts to warm up the cement, and it keeps the chickens' feet from freezing, and they continue to lay eggs all winter long. The chickens' bodies themselves are very well insulated by their feathers, but their feet are really the only thing that's at risk of getting frostbite, freezing, and they have kind of an internal sensor. If their feet are freezing, they'll stop laying eggs. They'll put all their energy into surviving. So if you can keep their feet from freezing, they'll just keep making eggs. So we get eggs all year long. Is that right, sweetie? Oh, tell me all about it. Yeah, they're good girls. And we get really good eggs, good tasty eggs all year long. Last but not least, there's nothing electrical about this, but it's just our greenhouse. You know, being off grid, we kind of try to be sustainable as possible, so we grow as much as we can. There's certain things that just don't like the soil here, so we've only begun to stock this up, but I got my peppers and herbs and stuff in here. Some of the house plants that don't like being in the house, we bring out here, but we're gonna get a lot more going out here and get more use out of this, so we can get an earlier planting season, a longer planting season, by getting seeds in the ground early. We also obviously garden like crazy. We got gardens all over the place out there. Oh yeah, solar panel on the lawn tractor. This is a 4-year-old battery. I've never had to jump start it. I've never had to, and I don't store it for the winter. I park it right over there, and when the snow melts and the grass starts to grow, I sit on it, push the button, and boom, she fires up. It's just a 2-watt Coleman panel, wired direct to it, no charge controller. Never done anything other than that, and it works every single time. Same thing with this tractor. 10-watt polycrystalline, wired straight to the battery. Works every time. That's an old battery, old beat up battery, but just having a little bit of current coming in all day every day keeps them alive. So yeah, that's the system. That's the most of it. You know, there's a lot more to all of it. There was some major R&D through every part of this. There's a big learning curve with solar power. With wind power, you got to figure out the wind, and you don't really know until you got one up in the air. I thought this property was just generally windy all year until I had a turbine in the air, and that was a frustrating struggle. That was some of my first videos, was getting a wind turbine working. But yeah, you know, off-grid life can be done. We're in Green Bay, Wisconsin here, and it gets cold in the winter, and for the entire month of November we pretty much don't see the sun. For most of the month of March we don't see the sun, but with the combination of having a multifaceted system, we don't run out of power. You know, I don't worry about not having utilities. I'll show you where the meter was. That's where the meter was plugged in. It's gone. Wires disconnected. See, they cut them right there. And the other ones are cut right there. Gas is still plumbed, but there is no meter. There is no gas moving through there. Not without a damn meter. So we just provide that stuff because we don't need theirs. Hell with them. And we're working on getting better at the gardening thing. I did more videos on the gardening as well. That's a whole nother challenge. We also hunt, you know. This is my heat for the winter right here. I'm gonna have to go through and whittle all that. It's work, but it's attainable and it's satisfactory work. I'm proud of it. And the money I save and the lessons that my girls have learned with helping me with these projects, they're gonna have a better step, you know, a foot forward going into adult life, knowing a little bit about efficiency and good work ethic and being able to make your own food, whether it's growing it out of the ground or going into the woods and hunting it. We're fortunate enough to have enough property here where I actually bow hunt right in the backyard. I get a buck and a doe and 2 turkeys out of the backyard every single year. I'm registered for the Metro city hunt, but all of these horns except for this one, so these all came out of the backyard, and there's the doe skulls are back in the compost pile. Who saves doe skulls? I obviously don't keep them for trophies. They're sitting on a barrel in the, you know, in the weed pile behind the shed. But maybe someday I'll do something cool with them. I'm not a trophy hunter, I'm a meat hunter. I'd actually prefer to just get all does, but if tasty looking young buck happens to walk past me while I'm in my stand loaded, I'm not gonna let him get too far. Well, anyways, thank you for watching. God bless you, and don't be scared to whack that subscribe button, because I do a lot of this stuff, and this system is constantly changing and improving, and we can all learn together. All right, take care.